Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Fire Up CJ show. We have a treat today, and we're going to have a ton of fun. We have Krishna Das, who is here talking about his life. I just watched his movie, One Heart Track. Is that the right name of it?
One track heart.
One Track Heart.
His life according to him.
That's your life according to you?
A legend in my own mind. No, not the movie. Actually, the movie I had nothing to do with. Very little to do with.
Okay.
In terms of editorial content.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't think that was. It wasn't a publicity stunt. That's what I mean. Somebody wanted to make a movie, so I said, all right.
Yeah.
But I said the only thing I ask is you don't include a lot of footage of me bad-mouthing everybody in the universe.
Oh, okay.
So from the few feet of film left, they made a very...
Well, I love the video. There were points that I was crying. So I want to go to those points because, why not cry again? Can't
Okay.
hurt.
Okay, we'll cry together.
Okay. All right. So I want to ask you about the trajectory of your life because you've been on a spiritual path for a really, really long time. I mean, what have you discovered? What is life about? And why are we here? You came with this question. How long have you been traveling? Please tell us your answer to date.
Yeah, right. Oh, wow. And that's
Hopefully
the first
better
question.
than my answer.
That should take about a week. How long do we have?
We have a week. We can interview over a week.
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you, quite unexpectedly, I think, when I first started doing this stuff, I was in a lot of pain, a lot of personal pain, a lot of depression, a lot of unhappiness. And so obviously at first, my understanding of this path was that by doing this, I can ease my pain. I can get out of this. Of course, underneath that was, I can go somewhere else. That was where, because this sucked. So definitely where I wanted to be was somewhere else. So if I can tell you one thing over these last 300 and how many years, there is no place else. This is it. There's nowhere to go. And one has to learn that the only things that are preventing one from being happy are one's own programs that are running. And that what most people feel about God or spirituality is that I'll be somebody else. I'll turn into something else. It'll be somewhere else. That it has nothing to do with me. And in fact, it's exactly the opposite. It has everything to do with who we think we are, because that's the only limitation that we have on ourselves are these thoughts that keep arising, these stories we keep telling ourselves. And so all spiritual work, what it does in one way or another is it relieves us of that burden of the self-hatred and the self-judgment and the self-limitation. And ultimately, of course, when that's really no longer there, we experience who we are directly, which is what we're looking for in the first place. So, I remember I used to sit with my guru and I would whatever, I'd put on clean clothes with him and I'd go and I'd sit with him and I'd wait, and after many times, I realized, wait, what am I waiting for? I was waiting for him to touch me, and and blow my mind, and all of a sudden, I wouldn't be there anymore.
Interesting.
And I realized that actually, it's exactly the opposite. There's no place where we are not. There's no time when we will never be. And there's nothing to do but learn to love ourselves and to love others as ourselves.
How does that feel?
Horrible. Horrible. I want to go somewhere else. I want to get in the car and drive away from all this shit. There's no place to go. Jesus. Okay.
On your worst day.
Which is now.
Which is now? This is your worst moment? I'm glad I'm here participating in creating your worst moment. Okay, in this worst moment right now,
Yeah.
how do you move to that other place?
You first have to get here, you know. You have to sit down or recognize the feelings and emotions and thoughts that are running through you and enter into some what they call spiritual practice, which means turning within in one way or another, whatever that means to you. And that means a different thing to every sect or teacher or teaching that ever was. Everybody has another method which essentially moves you and turns you within, whether it's from a visualization of some deity or watching your breath. The result is ultimately the same. So you just have to figure out what works for you, what you like to do.
And as for you, is the kirtan and chanting, is that your way to kind of return back?
Yeah, that's what it's turned out to be. It started in India when we would sing to my guru, we'd sing to Maharaja because he liked it. He loved to hear the name of God because he experienced that God when all the time. And so it was more love and more joy and more happiness. Even though it was already full. That's, this is full, that is full, this fullness comes from that fullness. There's nothing you can add or subtract, and yet there you are. So we used to sing to him, and he loved it, and that's how we started singing. But, when he left the body, then I crashed very terribly because there was nobody to sing to anymore.
Oh, God. Oh my goodness. All right. So in the movie, someone said that you sing to Maharaji.
Who is Maharaji? He's not somebody out there.
Yeah.
That's what took me all these years to begin to focus on, that he's not that body that was there. He's the love that lived in that body. He's the reality that was just camping out in that suit of clothes. And that suit of clothes was dropped, but the reality remains. And that's very hard for Westerners especially to recognize, because we're so materialistic, material oriented, stuff oriented, outside oriented, looking outside for everything. And everybody we've ever met, pretty much, in the West is doing the same thing. Very few people have the presence of mind to, so to speak, to wake us up. And so we turn to the East, so-called East, the mystical East, which is not only in the East, it's everywhere. But we turn to those teachings, those lineages, because we're drawn to them, because that's all they do is wake people up. And, our dream world's not that happy.
So what have you, if he's, and what I'm hearing you say is he's a manifestation of love, what have you learned about love? I mean, what's your understanding of love, and how has it grown over time? Because a lot of these chants, as I
Love
understand
stinks. Love stinks. Wasn't that a great song? Jay Giles. Love sucks because, without it, everything is bad, and with it, everything is good. And it's very simple. If you don't have it, you're looking for it. If you have it, you are it. There's no in between, I mean, unconditional love is who we are, but we don't know that. And we have to find out why we don't know that. It's not, I don't believe that it's enough to just have the positive reinforcement. I am love, I am God, I am beauty, I am truth. That can help rewire you to some degree, but it's manipulative. And love is not manipulative. Love is already here. Love is already who we are. Love is what's looking out of our eyes. But you could also say truth, being, consciousness. Those words are interchangeable. But being Westerners, our definitions of the words kind of ensures that we're not going to get it right in the first place.
We have this romantic definition of love that comes with flowers and chocolates.
I was once very much in love with somebody, and I was telling my Indian father, Mr. Tiwari, who was my best friend in the world and my greatest teacher and, a great yogi. And I was saying, going on and on about this woman, and he patiently listened. And then when I was finished, he said, my boy, relationships are business. He was married. He was married, had family. Relationships are business.
It's true.
Do your business. Enjoy. He said, but love is what lasts 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Love is what's here already. Call it truth, call it being, call it reality, whatever you want. But it's all that. And it's important to recognize that he said, do your business. He didn't say not to do my business. He encouraged me to do my business. Enjoy.
Right.
But how much of our business do we really enjoy? Relationships are difficult, painful, agonizing, educational, learning experiences. They're never the bliss that we think they are, except, for 3 minutes here and there.
Right.
Yeah. So he was well aware of that. He was a family man. He had children. And he knew what was going on. And he said, do your business, enjoy. But, if you expect love to come from that, you're tripping.
Okay, so at 24/7, how long were you feeling love during that 24-hour period?
At this time in my life?
Yeah.
Assuming it starts at like 12 midnight?
Yes.
I'd say a half a second into the day.
Yeah.
Maybe on a very good day. Because even the way you ask the question, just to point out, you say how much of that did you feel loved? That's just part of the thing. It's not about feeling love, it's about being love. And being love is different. Being love is not needy or yearning. Being love is being space, and everything's inside of that. There's nothing outside of it. There's nothing outside of you to love. It's all it. You're it. It's it. Everybody's it. And the reason I'm harping on this side of the equation, which is not where I spend most of the time, is that this is the one thing that we have to kind of understand where we're going. We can't expect to kind of emotionally manipulate ourselves into God, into reality. All you get from pushing yourself one way is a reaction the other way, and that's just going to happen. Every time you expect another person, an outside being, to do it for you, even a guru doesn't do it for you. A guru shows you which direction to move in. Then you have to clean up your game. Maharaja once looked at us and he said, I've done everything. I just leave the mind to you.
I love that.
Great. I mean, but
I'm doing a fantastic job with that.
Yeah. I've done everything. That's interesting though, but it means that program is running. Now just get with the program. Keep coming back to now. Keep coming back to Ram. When we chant, that's why chanting's such a great practice for me, and for those who do it, because you keep training yourself to come back from whatever fantasy, imagining, nonsense you're doing in your head by just coming back to the chant over and over and over. Your job is simply to repeat the name. It's not to make anything happen. It's to remember that you're actually sitting there doing this. It's very hard. But the moment you can do it, boom. That's what he said. He said, go on, repeat your lying, false Ram. Go on, keep doing it. One of these days, you'll get it right one time. That's it. And the real Ram will come.
Yeah.
So, if we don't realize who we're not, we'll never find out who we are. That's the way it seems to me.
When Maharaja, when you met him, I assume he's someone who 24/7 is being love. What does it feel like to be in the presence of someone like that?
Impossible to describe. Only to say that it's very rare because everybody wants something and he doesn't want anything. Nothing. He doesn't, you can't give him anything, you can't lure his attention, you can't suck him into petting you on the head or throwing you a fruit. It happens when it happens according to the universe's dictates, or rules, or dharma, or how it unfolds perfectly. And you have to surrender. And it's miserable half the time. The other half the time, it's better than anything you could possibly imagine, because we can't really imagine those states of being. It's like trying to paint a picture with of the sky without the color blue. We just don't have the tools. So, and in fact, we've never seen the color blue. It doesn't exist here. Well, how are we going to paint a picture of something that we've never seen, And yet, on the other side of that is, this is what we yearn for all the time in our own hearts. How could we yearn for something that we don't know? So we must know already. We must have that within us. We must have had those experiences, or this would be irrelevant, which it is to most people on the planet on one level. Most people get born, drink beer, go to sleep, and that's it. They die. And they do it again. Every day. And then and they have no clue there's anything to look for, anything to find, any other way of living. So if we have the karmas that we already know that's a really big thing in the first place. Huge. And it just ruins your fucking life completely, because nothing is ever enough. And we keep wanting things to be enough. We keep bending ourselves into every possible shape to make it enough. Or to make somebody else give us what we want, so for 1 minute it'll be enough. But it's never enough. And that's what Buddha said. That's all Buddha said. He said, yo, monks, stuff don't work. There's suffering. There is essential dissatisfaction in life, because this world will never be enough. This world will never be enough. We'll never find complete, total happiness being attached to this world, being identified with our bodies and our thoughts and our emotions. Because those things are always changing. That's the second thing he said. Everything's always changing. And we don't want it to change. We want to hold on to it, So the reason we go on this, we enter onto this path is because of unhappiness, because of suffering. And unless you recognize that, the more you recognize that, the more intensely you can do your practices, the more intensely you search. Because you realize there's nowhere to go, there's nowhere to get away from the suffering. One has to find a way to live with it in a way that makes beautiful sense, so to speak.
So how have you found a way to live with you seem like someone who's gone through a lot of personal suffering. Have you made
Presence.
presence?
One thing I know is that when I sing, everything's okay. When I'm chanting, everything's okay. I can deal with it. Whether that means, and I don't mean only chanting with people. When I'm centered, when that's happening within me, when I remember what is, whatever happens is dealable with. If I don't remember, it is not dealable with. So the chanting reminds me over and over what is real and what is important. It keeps bringing me back home again and again and again. And you get used to being at home, so you don't go so far away.
Yeah.
You realize everything's already here. The icebox is full of Haagen-Dazs. There's Cheerios in the cupboard. What do you need? Almond milk in the refrigerator, Why go to the store? Everything's here.
Yeah. What happens to you when you're chanting that brings I mean, what do you think, as you've been chanting for so long, and maybe this is a mind question, but have you ever thought about what's actually happening that allows me, and you said part of it earlier, that part of it is you're just letting go of your thoughts. It's just, but you know,
That, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
what's
I don't
happening?
usually talk about that. I don't usually talk about that because that just puts more thoughts in a person's head, and then they think, well, I'm not doing this right, or I should be feeling this or feeling that. Just pay attention. See what's there. The more you do it, the more you feel. What you feel is completely your own thing. You know, I mean, although everybody is essentially aiming in the same place, we experience it differently according to what our lives have been and who we are right now and what's going on. You know?
Right. So your chanting changes over time, like what it means to you and
Of
how
course,
it's worded.
sure.
I guess if the chanting is your connection with your divinity or the divinity within all of us, then I guess that would change, wouldn't it, over time?
The more you, the more comfortable you feel in your own heart, in your own being, what you see outside changes. It's as if we were born in the middle of the night and we walked into the world and we think, oh, wow, we don't, this is it. This is the world, right? You can't see a foot in front of yourself. You can't tell who's coming to you out of the darkness until they're like right there, you know? But as the sun begins to rise, little by little, more light comes into the world. And you go, wow, I didn't see that tree before. I didn't see that hole in the ground. I didn't see this, you know, what you see actually changes. How you see actually changes. Actually, not how you see, but what you see
Yeah,
changes. And the more, the lighter it gets, the more you see, the more it changes, the differently you feel.
yeah.
That's just a metaphor, but the sense is that it's a very natural change, you know. As we clean the mirror of our hearts, when we look into that mirror, what we see changes. You know, and the thing is, what we see outside is essentially a mirror. You could say it's our projections. There's really nothing solid out there except we're all kind of locked into a particular wavelength, bandwidth, and what we see is very dictated by that bandwidth, you know. So as we move more deeply into ourselves and our minds are less aggressive in labeling and evaluating and etc. ourselves and others and what's out there, uh, how, how we perceive the world and ourselves actually changes. And until you have that experience, you can't really describe it. I mean, you can talk about it and you go, yeah, that's nice, wow. But when you start to realize that that's what's happening, everything, oh, that's what it is.
I'm creating my own reality.
Well, you know, that's also an interesting statement. You know, people say, you know, people say things like that, and I try to remind them, well, the I that you're talking about at that point is really me, and me doesn't create the reality. I creates the reality. Being creates the reality. Our soul, if that essence is what we're provided with what we need to get free. What's in front of our face is the work that we have to do. It's not a mistake. It's not. We're not in somebody else's dream. This is ours, and that's the good news and the bad news.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And the other good news and bad news is that, you know, nobody has to do it for you, but nobody can do it for you. So that's the good news and the bad news. So there's a lot of good news and bad news. You know, it's the same news, but it depends on how you look at it.
All right, I'm going to switch gears. I guess
Okay.
this is where I was kind of intuitively felt we should go. Watch out. Okay, so the question I have is about connection to body, and every time I do yoga, at the very end, you do shavasana so that you can practice dying before you die. Um, and I've noticed I just hit 50, and now I'm thinking about life, and I'm also thinking about death, probably in equal measures. As
You're young. Give yourself a few years.
thanks.
If you think you start thinking about that shit at 50, oh, wow. Imagine what it's going to be like.
I've always been mature for my age.
Ah, that's what you
My
thought. Huh?
best friend is 80, so that tells you something. Okay, so how have you? What have you learned about your connection to body? I mean, how do you view death and all of that as time has passed?
I don't know. The culture that I have, by grace, been allowed to immerse myself in has no doubt that there is something called reincarnation, and that it's the indwelling presence in the body that's of utmost importance, and the pursuit and the search for that indwelling presence is the most important thing in life. Do I have direct experience of any of that? No, absolutely not. However, I have met people who I consider enlightened beings. Or I don't even say that, okay? I'm not even going to say that. I've met people who know what's going on. Whether they're fully enlightened or not, I have no clue. But these beings know what's going on. There's no mystery to them. And they all seem to accept this issue of reincarnation, and that the body is essentially just a suit of clothes. And that you shed it and you take another one, depending on how you lived your life and what you've done in this life, along with the shitload of karmas that you brought from all your previous lives. So they say there's just a small amount of that karma that we get to work out every life. There's only so much we can digest for most of us. And that life after life, the combination of what we've done now and what we've done in the past creates the future. So, that's a working hypothesis that feels comfortable for me to live in. I don't try to convince anybody of it, but that's from what I've seen and the experiences I've had, and the experiences I've had with many, many, many great beings. I'd have to kind of say it's probably true.
All right, so you believe in? I actually believe in reincarnation. Someone described it as it's a rental car.
Yeah, but who's renting the car? That's the whole thing,
Yeah.
We have to find out who's renting that car.
Yeah.
And a car can be used for many different things.
Yep.
You can run over people with a car. You can use it to escape after robbing a bank.
Yep.
Or you can go look at beautiful scenery. There's a lot of things you can do with the car, but the real issue is who's driving.
Yep.
What and what motivation does that person have? So these answers can only come from within, and they can only come through practice. And intuitive understanding, which is what's opened up by practice.
Sometimes I think about my life, which is searching a lot of the same questions that you're searching. And sometimes I think, I'm just self-indulgent, I mean, concentrating on I. But when you think about it, do you think the I is the big I, so that what you're contemplating is not the small I, but the big I?
Actually...
Or am I self-indulgent? Tell me, am I self-indulgent?
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
Let's just get things clear.
Yeah. Once I used to spend time at the houses of the old devotees of Maharaja, especially after he left the body. And one time I was at this man Dada's house, who was one of Maharaji's great old devotees. And I was reverencing him probably a little bit too much for his own comfort.
Mm-hmm.
So he stopped and he turned around and he looked at me and said, Krishna Das, maybe I'm a step or two ahead of you. Maybe you're a step or two of other people. He said, but we're all on this side. You know, we're all on this side. The other shore is the other shore. Meanwhile, we're just hanging out here. We're here on this side. And that was a very interesting thing to say, you know. One must pay attention to what's going on. You know, is it self-indulgent? I don't think so at all. That's what people say who don't know what self is in the first place. You know, that's what people say, people who don't think they're ever going to die, who think that if they have enough toys and enough fun, you know, everything will be all right forever. You know, don't think about that stuff. What's wrong with you? Are you depressed? Are you crazy? Excuse me, but when I'm dying, there's not going to be anybody going with me. You know, I have to be ready for that. I have to know what this is. I have to know who I am. I have to find out these. I have to work with these issues. Otherwise, they're going to work with me, and that's not going to be fun. It's not fun when you're pushed around by your shadow and that you don't see. When your emotions keep creating, you know, a horrible daily experience, and we have no vote in how we feel. You know, so that's self-indulgent. Unconsciously, completely, totally, not even indulged by the small s self, but miserable as the small s, because we have no understanding that there's a greater self, the sense of being, that's our true nature. So for people who don't know they're in jail, you know, it's perfectly comfortable. This is the way life is. But for those of us who know that we're in jail, we're going to try to get ourselves out of here. And every, you know, every being who's ever entered this path has been looked on as crazy by people who are involved only in the world and worldly stuff. So you have to be completely self-indulgent, and then you might find out your real true self.
All right, and now I have incentive. I'm going to go meditate for the next couple hours.
Oh, yeah, good luck, man. Yeah. You can pretend you're meditating, but I know what you'll be doing.
Okay, so I have a question. My personal question. I've been struggling with this a lot. Ego. And you said that there is a point in the movie you talk about, or maybe you didn't talk about, the creator of the movie talked about a point where you realize that why you were doing some of the chanting may be ego-based versus spirit-based, and that you then, you know, went to India, and on June 12th, actually coming up, you actually had this, what is it called? Some festival.
It was the 15th of June, 1990.
Sorry, 15th. Not that you remembered or anything.
Not that I remember. Just it's the day that my life changed, and with it, you know.
All right. And that's the part that I was crying in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about that experience for you.
It was grace, you know. It was my guru's grace. I was in a place that I couldn't get out of. I was unable to do the very thing that I had to do to save myself, to save my ass. And my own stuff was preventing me from doing it. My own desires, my own hungers, my own, you know, just humanness in the sense, you know, was preventing me from doing the practice the way it had to be done. I was going to use the chanting to feed all my desires.
Ah, whoa, wow, okay.
Which, you know, wasn't going to help me or anybody else.
Yeah.
And that's not why I was doing the practice. That wasn't my impetus. My impetus was that I had realized that chanting with people was actually the only thing I could do to help myself. So now here I was, unable to do that because I was, it's like you're given a beautiful new car and you drive into a tree. That's what I was doing. Every day I got into the car, I'd drive into a tree. and I came up against my own stuff, and I was helpless. I was truly helpless, and I would talk to Maharaja, of course, who'd been left the body, 20 years before, and I said, "You got to change this. You got to fix this. If you don't fix this, I'm not singing anymore," and that's all there is to it. Period.
Well, what did you expect him to fix? You expect him to fix your desires?
I expected him to change my heart somehow.
Wow. Wow.
Because I couldn't. I was, like I said, I knew what I needed to do, but I wasn't able to do it.
Yeah, it's like an addiction in some ways. Like you had
Yeah.
previously, earlier in your life, you had whatever, year and a half with addictions. This is yet another addiction
In a way, but
to desires.
it wasn't just desires. I mean, as if there's anything else. If we're honest.
Yes.
It was that the yearning of my heart was being destroyed by by me. And that there was, I was unable to fulfill that yearning, to follow that yearning, that I was too hungry, and I couldn't stop using people to satisfy my own needs, using the situation, not just people, but the situation. And it was horrible. It was, it was absolutely the worst despair that I have ever felt. Because I couldn't do anything. I was helpless. But nor did I recognize the only thing that was required at the time, which was surrender. So I was helpless, and yet if I had seen that I was really helpless, that would have been surrender. But I was helpless and pissed off, and angry and upset and hurt and depressed and all those things. So I went to India, and I stayed, wound up staying 3 months, and the night before, a couple of nights before, which was to be my last night in the temple, before leaving to go down to Delhi and get a plane home, every night I would say to Maharaja, another day has gone by, and you haven't done anything. You haven't fixed this. What's wrong with you? Get it together.
I like how Maharaja is like a car mechanic for you.
He is a car mechanic. He's the car mechanic, the karma mechanic.
Okay.
But in retrospect, if you realize, I had no doubt that he could do this. None. Would he? That was the only thing I didn't know. And he wasn't. Day after day was going by, and the despair was just unbearable, and he wasn't doing anything. Nothing was changing. It was really hard. So then, a couple of nights before I was supposed to leave, I went out to this, every night while I was in the temple, which was about the last month I was there, I would go out to the back, where in the old days there was all this dark, these beautiful, you could see the sky, there was no lights. Now there's lights everywhere in the valleys, full of electricity. In those days there was almost nothing. So I find this one place where it's dark, and kind of in the shadows, and there's no light shining, and I looked up at the stars, and I would talk to him, So on this night, I said, you haven't done anything. I'm leaving in 2 days. What's going on here? And then I said, well, I can't make you do this if you don't want to. I can't make you do this. And I don't understand why you're not doing it, but I can't make you do this. So whatever you're going to do is going to be fine. I mean, I'm not going to like it. I'll go back. I'll sing. How bad could it be? Good night. in retrospect, I realized many years later, kind of, I guess while I was telling somebody's story, that was the moment of surrender, of accepting myself and the situation the way it is, not the way I wanted it to be. And even though I knew it was going to be horrible, because I knew I knew who I am and who I was and the way I was willing to go through it. Okay, fuck it. I'm going to do this. I'll go back. I'll sing. How bad could it be? Well, it could have been really bad. However, that was what precipitated the next day, which was a day that changed everything for me, because I can't really describe it directly. I can only say that I saw what everything is. I not only did I see myself and all my and who I am and all this, the meanness, all the humanness and all the stuff, but I saw that when people came to chant and when they approached me, they didn't want me. They were feeling this connection to something, taking it as me. And he showed me during that course of that day, I experienced directly that there is no me at all, actually. That's just a fantasy. And that I was freed to actually come back and really sing, because it wasn't about me at all. And even if people thought it was me, that's okay. That's their problem. And even if I forget and think it's me, it's okay. It's okay to be stupid, because it isn't. Yeah. Even if I think it is, the truth is actually not that. So I was freed. It wasn't my problem anymore. Yeah. It wasn't my problem. It was his problem. It was just the situation. You know, and there was a lot of other things that happened, blah, 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 but the result was that I was freed to come back and really sing. And that was just, you know, so he did fix it.
And when you're singing, does it make me cry again? God.
No, a disclaimer, I own stock in all the tissue companies.
No wonder. All right, so when you're singing, how does it feel differently? Being freed and knowing that it's...
I was free just to do it, to sing. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about me. It wasn't even about what I experienced while I'm singing. My job is just to concentrate on the chant, on the sound of the words, of the names. That's what I was free to do. I didn't have to worry. It wasn't what other people experience isn't my business. It's not my problem, my issue. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to come back home again, over and over and over and over and over again. Yeah. And personally, I think that's what, on some level, frees other people to get back home too, because their home is apparently looks to be in a different place, looks to be where they are. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, we're all here. So it's very interesting, you know.
Yeah. What a beautiful story. So tell me, in the last couple of minutes, tell me about your newest album and what your intentions are for that.
Well, it's funny. The newest album is named Kirtanwala, which, of course, is the simplest I could come up with, which is what I am, a kirtan. It's the guy who does kirtan. That's it, who chants. And it continues the evolution of the music of it, and the feeling at ease just to express myself whatever way it comes through, without any judging it or wondering if anybody's going to like it, or just to do what I always do and do, which is try to make myself happy, enjoy myself, and sing what I like. I'm surprised more than anybody that so many people enjoy this and like this, because that's not my motivation. My motivation is simply to come home, to remember, and that's what the practice helps me with. So Kirtanwala has a a bunch of new tunes. It's the same old mantras, thousands of years ago, thousands of years into it, same stuff. But the music is different and the vibe is very light and sweet. And I, I have to grit my teeth and say this, but it's a little happier feeling record.
Oh no.
Horrible. I know. I can't. I'm not. It's just there's a joy that we had a great time doing it, and there was a great. It's much more joyful and
Yeah.
deep. It's also very deep too. But whatever. This is what people are saying. I get all these female. Oh, this is such a happy feeling, and I say, well, if you only knew me, you wouldn't say that. But
Well, it has been such a pleasure and honor and blessing to be with you and to learn about your life and God, the lessons that you've learned. Thank you.
thank you, and I guess I'll see you out there soon, right?
Yeah, well, you're coming on June 28th, so I'll be back. We'll be back from China, and I will be there June 28th, 7 to
Great.
10 o'clock in Seattle Center for Spirituality, and you can sign up for the tickets at East West Bookstore.
I'll remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, make sure to get your ticket.
Yeah, I'll remember to show up at the right place.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. What a
Okay,
blessing and honor to be with you.
thank you.
Beautiful soul. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful
Yeah.
soul you have. Thank you so much.
Bye
Okay. All right.
now.
Bye bye.
Bye.
All right. Hey, thank you so much for listening to the Fire It Up with CJ show. I hope you enjoyed the show and that you learned something or found something that you'd like to try out. It means so much to me that you're listening to the show and love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.